I need to get this down, maybe someone will believe me, or maybe someone will help. At the very least, if I disappear, there will be a record of what happened. My name is Michael Brennan. I'm 42, and up until a few months ago, I was living an ordinary life in Charleston, West Virginia. I had a steady job in IT at a big tech company, a modest apartment, and a cat named Pixel. It wasn't much, but it was stable. Then, everything changed. I stumbled upon files I wasn't meant to see, evidence of my company's unethical activities involving user data. The details don't matter, let's just say it was bad enough to destroy lives if exposed. I felt I had to do something, so I blew the whistle. I thought I was doing the right thing, but it was a huge mistake. Within a week, I lost my job, and not just that. I was blacklisted. Suddenly, no tech company in the state wanted to hire me. My savings dwindled quickly, and I was falling behind on rent. I was desperate, scouring job boards for any way to make ends meet. That's when I saw it: night receptionist needed at Whispering Pines Motel, Fayetteville, West Virginia, $50 an hour, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. No experience required. Immediate start. It sounded too good to be true, but I couldn't afford to be skeptical. I called the number, and a gruff voice instructed me to come in that night for an interview. No resume was needed. The drive took about an hour, and the sun was setting as I arrived. Whispering Pines Motel was an old, L-shaped structure, 2 stories of rooms around a central parking lot, with a neon sign that flickered weakly, half of its letters burned out. I parked and entered the office, where the smell of stale cigarettes and cheap air freshener lingered. Behind the desk sat an older man with deep wrinkles etched into his face. He barely glanced up from his newspaper. "Help you?" he grunted. Yeah. I'm Michael Brennan. I called about the night receptionist job." He folded his paper, eyeing me with an intense look. "You sure you want it?" Caught off guard, I just said, "Yes, that's why I'm here." He nodded. "All right, you start tonight. 11 to 7 o'clock. $50 an hour, cash. Any questions?" I was taken aback and only managed to stammer, "Don't you want to interview me?" He shrugged. "You showed up. That's the interview. This job isn't for everyone." I was in no position to pass it up. "Okay, great. What do I need to do?" "Check in guests, keep an eye on things, and follow the rules." He pulled a piece of paper from his pocket, folded, and handed it to me. "Memorize these. Don't write them down, don't tell anyone about them. Break a rule, and you're done. Got it?" With a slightly trembling hand, I took the paper. "Got it. Good. See you at 11. In a daze, I returned to my car, clinging to the paper. Once inside, I unfolded it and read. Rules for the night shift at Whispering Pines Motel. At 11:15 p.m., turn off the neon sign. Turn it back on at 6:45 a.m., not a minute earlier or later. If you hear knocking from the ice machine, ignore it. Never open the ice machine between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Room 237 is always vacant. If anyone asks about it, say it's under renovation. If you see lights on in room 237, don't investigate. The office phone will ring at 3:33 a.m. every night. Answer it, but don't speak. Listen for exactly 66 seconds, then hang up. If a guest checks in and gives the name John Smith, give them the key to room 113, regardless of availability. Don't look at their face. The vending machine may occasionally dispense items that are not food or drink. If this happens, dispose of the item immediately. Do not touch it with bare hands. At 5:55 a.m., lock yourself in the supply closet for exactly 5 minutes. Do not come out early, no matter what you hear. I stared at the list, feeling a chill run down my spine. It had to be some sort of joke, a hazing ritual. But the old man's eyes had been dead serious. I glanced at my watch, 10:45 p.m. I had only 15 minutes to decide if I'd go through with this. Images of Pixel, the unpaid bills, and the humiliation of my last day at my old job flashed in my mind. Taking a deep breath, I got out of the car and walked back into the office. The old man was gone, replaced by a younger guy with dark circles under his eyes. "You the new guy?" he asked, gathering his things. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm Michael." Without another word, he muttered, "Good luck," as he brushed past me. "Wait," I called. "Any advice?" He stopped but didn't turn. "Yeah. Follow the rules." And with that, he was gone. I sat behind the desk, my heart racing, keeping a close eye on the clock as 11:15 approached. Right on time, I went out and switched off the neon sign, plunging the parking lot into darkness, with only a few dim lights by the rooms. As my eyes adjusted, I thought I saw something move in the shadows near room 237. But when I looked directly, there was nothing. Back in the office, I tried to distract myself by exploring the small space, a cramped bathroom, a supply closet, and a back room with a cot and a mini fridge, likely for night shifts. The thought of sleeping there made my skin crawl. Around 1:30 a.m., a couple arrived. They looked like they were just looking for a quiet place to spend the night together. "Welcome to Whispering Pines," I greeted them with a smile. "How can I help you?" The guy grinned and said, "Yeah, we need a room for the night. Something with a view, you know." Forcing a chuckle, I handed him a key. "Sure thing. Room 215. It's $65 for the night." As I processed their payment, the girl seemed uneasy. "This place is kind of creepy, babe," she murmured. "Maybe we should go somewhere else." Inside, I was pleading with them to stay. I needed the job. The guy laughed. "Ah, come on. It's got character. I'm sure it looks better in daylight, right?" He looked at me expectantly. "Absolutely," I said smoothly. "The mountain view in the morning is amazing. You'll love it." That seemed to reassure them, and they headed to their room. One normal interaction down. Maybe this wasn't going to be as bad as I'd feared. But I'd spoken too soon. At 2:17 a.m., a soft thumping sound echoed from the lobby. My blood went cold. The ice machine. The sound was gentle at first, like polite tapping, but then it grew louder, more insistent. I clutched the arms of my chair, every nerve screaming to run. But the rule echoed in my head: do not open the ice machine between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. During the check-in process, I handed the man the key to room 109. As he turned to leave, a strange, unsettling smell hit me. It wasn't the usual scent of a traveler. It was sharp, chemical, and disturbingly sweet, making my stomach churn. Once he was out of sight, I found myself obsessively washing my hands, as if I'd touched something dangerous. What was wrong with me? He was just another guest, right? The next few hours passed uneventfully, except for the usual 3:33 a.m. phone call, where all I could hear was a whispering argument. I tried not to look at room 237, though I could swear I saw flashes of light under the door. Then, at 4:17 a.m., it happened. I was flipping through an old magazine when I heard a soft tap on the office door. I froze, the magazine slipping from my numb fingers. The tapping came again, more urgent this time. Turning toward the door, I saw a little girl in a white dress peering through the glass. My breath caught in my throat. She seemed so real. Her dark hair was neatly braided, and she clutched a worn teddy bear. But her eyes, something was wrong. They were too old, too knowing for a child's face. "Please," she called, muffled through the glass. "Let me in. I'm lost." I'm scared. My hands clenched around the arms of the chair, knuckles turning white. The rule echoed in my mind, do not let her in, no matter what she says or does. I'm sorry, I said, my voice trembling. I can't open the door. It's against the rules. Her face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes. But I'm cold, and there's something out here, something bad. Please, mister, please help me. Every instinct screamed at me to open the door, to help her. What kind of monster leaves a child outside in the cold? But I remembered the old man's warning, money ain't worth your soul, kid. I'm so sorry, I said again, feeling like the worst person alive. I can't. But I can call someone for you. The police. Her expression changed instantly. The tears vanished, replaced by a look of pure malice that froze me to my core. Her voice was deeper, layered with other voices, ancient, full of hatred. You'll regret this, Michael Brennan, she hissed. You can't hide from what you've done. We'll make you remember. We'll make you pay. And just like that, she vanished. One moment she was there, pressing against the glass, the next, she was gone. I sat there, shaking, for what felt like hours. What had she meant by, make me remember? What had I done? The questions churned in my mind, making me dizzy with fear and confusion. I don't remember turning the sign back on, or the old man arriving. The next thing I knew, I was in my car, driving home in the early morning light. As I pulled into my apartment complex, my phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number, 2 down, 5 to go. The past always catches up, Michael. I deleted the message with trembling hands and stumbled into my apartment. Pixel greeted me at the door, meowing for breakfast. The normalcy of it, my cat, my cluttered apartment, the morning sun streaming through the windows, felt surreal after the night I'd just endured. As I poured kibble into Pixel's bowl, dizziness washed over me. I gripped the counter, my eyes closing as fragmented images flashed through my mind, a stark white room, the smell of antiseptic, a man in a lab coat leaning over me, saying something about successful suppression of memories. I gasped, eyes snapping open. What was that? A forgotten dream? A hallucination? But deep down, I knew it was something more. Something I had either forgotten or been forced to forget. I sank to the floor, leaning against the cabinets. Pixel rubbed against my leg, purring, unaware of my internal turmoil. I absent-mindedly stroked her fur, trying to make sense of everything. One thing was becoming clear, Whispering Pines Motel wasn't just a creepy place with strange rules. It was connected to me somehow, my past. And if I wanted answers, I would have to go back. God help me, I would have to go back. The thumping from the ice machine continued, growing more frantic. It no longer sounded like knocking, now, it felt like something was trying to claw its way out. There was a muffled voice too distorted to understand, but it was filled with desperation. I pressed my hands to my ears, squeezing my eyes shut, repeating to myself, it's not real. It's not real. After what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, the noise stopped. The silence that followed was almost worse than the thumping. I slowly lowered my hands, the ringing in my ears loud in the quiet. My shirt was soaked with sweat. I checked the time, 2:43 a.m. The ice machine would still be active for another hour and 17 minutes, and I needed a distraction. I turned to the ancient computer on the desk, hoping to lose myself in mindless browsing, but when I jiggled the mouse, I realized the screen wasn't just dark, it was cracked. A spiderweb of fractures spread from the center. That's when I noticed something dark and sticky on the keyboard. I leaned closer, my curiosity overpowering my fear. At first, it looked like blood, but it was old, congealed. I recoiled, my stomach churning. The phone rang, making me jump. I checked my watch, 3:33 a.m. exactly. My hand trembled as I picked up the receiver. Remembering the rule, I focused. Listen for 66 seconds, don't speak. I pressed the phone to my ear. At first, there was only static, but then I began to make out whispers beneath the white noise. The static faded, replaced by the sound of footsteps on creaky floorboards, a door opening, and then, in a voice that was chillingly clear, "We've been waiting for you, Michael." I froze. How did they know my name? The voice continued, low and menacing, "Did you really think you could escape? That you could just forget? Oh, Michael, you have so much to remember." The line went dead. I slammed the phone down, my heart racing. What was going on? How could they possibly know who I was? I ran to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face, trying to calm down. When I looked up into the mirror, I froze. Written in the steam that shouldn't have been there in this cold room, were two words: "Remember, Michael." I stumbled back to the desk, my mind reeling. This had to be a prank, right? A way to haze the new guy. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. There was something seriously wrong with this place. The rest of the night passed in a blur of terror and confusion. At 4:30 a.m., a man checked in, giving the name John Smith. I felt my blood run cold as I remembered the rule. With shaking hands, I gave him the key to room 113, careful to keep my eyes lowered as he walked away. When I caught a glimpse of his reflection in the window, I saw something horrifying. Where his face should have been was smooth, featureless skin. At 5:30 a.m., I heard a clunk from the vending machine. Despite my fear, I went to investigate. In the dispenser tray was a small, ornate box, covered in strange symbols I didn't recognize. I remembered the rule about not touching strange items with my bare hands. Using a pen, I carefully pushed the box into a plastic bag. The moment it was sealed, the bag began to smoke, the plastic melting away. I dropped it with a yelp and ran back to the office. Finally, 5:55 a.m. arrived. I sprinted to the supply closet and locked myself inside just as my watch ticked to 5:55. For 4 minutes and 30 seconds, nothing happened. I began to relax, thinking maybe this rule was just paranoia. Then, I heard it. A low, guttural growl right outside the door. The handle jiggled. Something heavy slammed against the wood, making the whole closet shake. I pressed myself into the corner, biting my fist to keep from screaming. The door bulged inward with each impact. I was certain it would burst open at any moment. I squeezed my eyes shut, silently begging my watch to move faster. Then, silence. I cracked one eye open. 6 a.m. exactly. My legs like jelly, I stumbled out of the closet. The hallway was empty. There was no sign of whatever had been trying to get in. At 6:45 a.m., I turned the neon sign back on. I had never been so happy to see the sun rising. The old man from the previous night walked in at 7 a.m., looking me up and down, taking in my disheveled appearance and wild eyes. "You made it," he grunted, sounding almost impressed. "Want to quit?" I opened my mouth to say yes, to tell him to keep this hellish job, but then I thought of my empty bank account, of Pixel, who needed to eat, of my landlord who was already talking about eviction. "No," I heard myself say. "I'll be back tonight." He nodded, unsurprised. "See you at 11 then." As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number: "Good job, Michael. You're remembering. See you soon." I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. What had I gotten myself into? What did they mean, "you're remembering"? And how did they know who I was? Little did I know, this was just the beginning. The true horror of Whispering Pines Motel, and my connection to it, was yet to be revealed. Night 2. I spent the day in a fog, alternating between fitful naps and paranoid Google searches. I found nothing about Whispering Pines Motel online, which seemed impossible in this day and age. It was as if the place didn't exist. As night fell, I seriously considered not going back. But the thought of ending up on the street, of letting down Pixel, I couldn't do it. So, at 10:30 p.m., I found myself driving back to Phil, my stomach in knots. The old man was there again, reading the same newspaper as before. He barely looked up as I entered. "You're early," he grunted. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. He folded his paper and fixed me with that unnerving stare. "Listen, boy, you made it through one night. That's more than most, but it gets worse. You sure you want to stay?" I swallowed hard. "I need the money," I said weakly. He shook his head. "Money ain't worth your soul, kid. But it's your choice." He stood up, grabbing his coat. "Oh, and one more thing. There's a new rule tonight. Check the drawer." With that, he left. I waited until I heard his car pull away before opening the desk drawer. Inside was a single slip of paper. Rule 8, if you see a little girl in a white dress, do not let her in, no matter what she says or does. Do not open the door. Great. Because things weren't creepy enough already. The night started much like the previous one. I turned off the sign at 11:15, settled in behind the desk, and tried not to jump at every little sound. Around 1 a.m., a truck pulled into the lot. An older man, probably in his 60s, came in, looking exhausted. "Evening," he said, his voice gravelly. "Got a room?" I nodded, reaching for a key. "Just you tonight?" I asked. He grunted in affirmation. As I checked him in, I noticed his hands. They were covered in what looked like grease or oil. But there was something off about it. It was too dark, almost black, and seemed to shimmer slightly in the fluorescent light. I must have been staring because he suddenly pulled his hands back, shoving them in his pockets. "Had some car trouble on the way," he muttered, not meeting my eyes. I quickly finished checking him in.